Welcome to the VCA Voice Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Marie Kerl. Join us as we dive into inspirational stories about our caring and capable associates and their commitment to guiding healing journeys for our patients. Our discussions explore the important ways VCA Animal Hospitals proactively supports the future of veterinary medicine through leading the industry in medical excellence and providing hometown care to our communities. On today's episode, I'm happy to welcome Dyanna Durr. Dyanna is a credentialed veterinary technician and a regional technician director with VCA's South Atlantic Group. Hi, Dyanna. How are you today?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you for joining me. And let's jump right in. So tell me a little bit about your journey in veterinary medicine.
Sure. So it actually started from a really young age. I do not remember a time where I was not fascinated and interested in working with animals in some way. And interestingly, perhaps part of that may be sparked by the fact that I didn't actually have a pet until I was about 14 years old. My mom had experienced a pretty tragic loss of one of her own pets and was adamant that her children would never have to experience that level of grief in their life. But eventually we got her to come along for the ride. We got a pet. Probably the most profound experience for me in getting into veterinary medicine was finding that there was a high school local to me that had a assisting program and allowed for us to experience what that was like during all 4 years of high school and graduate as a certified assistant.
Oh, wow. Okay.
During that time, there was an opportunity to work at a local hospital, and my teacher really encouraged me to do that. So by age 16, I had applied and received a position within a local hospital, which showed me that this is definitely what I want to do with the rest of my life.
So now, was it a regular high school or a vocational high school? Because we have some programs in the Northeast with some vocational high schools with a veterinary assistant program.
This is exactly that. I actually have a lot of high schools around here that have vocational programs, but this one was for veterinary medicine, and it actually developed quite a lot during my time there. We even eventually built on a surgical suite and a dental suite within the school to invite practices to come in and show the students exactly what they were doing. So shortly after graduating, within a couple of years, I was actually invited to come back with one of my doctors and was able to do a neuter and a dental procedure to show the students there. So it kind of came full circle.
I've had the opportunity to hear you tell your story before and found it really, really inspiring. You had your first job at 16, and what happened?
So I stuck with that practice for quite a long time, and I thought I would be there forever. And the practice was sold and purchased by someone else who had really great aspirations and ambitions. And eventually we were approached, and they wanted to try to explore the opportunity of putting this model within other practices.
Okay.
So I eventually had the opportunity to become a leader within a couple of those practices, which was really fantastic. It made sense. It felt like I was progressing in the career. But I think the most significant hurdle that I had to overcome happened about 10 years ago. I had injured my back pretty badly. And at the time, there were some comments made about the liability that I was going to present to the company and to the practices that I was working with at that time. And I was ultimately removed from the medical side of the practice and put into reception.
Wow.
I can honestly say I thoroughly enjoyed being able to have deeper communication with our clients and being able to lean on my former experience and my education to support the clients in a different way than I had before. But it really felt like my journey was being taken out of my hands, and it hurt. It hurt.
Yeah.
Looking back, I think I realize now that I allowed those comments to negatively impact me, and I questioned whether I would be able to continue in vet med. And I realized one day that the only person who could improve my situation was me. So that is how I found VCA. I started looking online for opportunities where I knew I could still fit into vet med somewhere. And I found VCA Kerl Cat Hospital. They were looking for a supervisor, and I applied, I interviewed, and I joined their team early 2017, and I have not looked back.
What made the difference between the practice that you were originally with and joining Carrollwood?
The acceptance. There's a point at which some of us can no longer handle some of the physicality that's required. And I found that happened earlier in my career than I expected. being able to still have that opportunity to come in and use my skills, use my knowledge, and start cultivating others to follow suit in a supervisory role really helped me to feel fulfilled again.
Oh, wonderful. Well, we're going to circle back around to the cat part of that story a little bit later, because that's fascinating as well. But I'd like to know now when you became a VCA regional technician director and what happened there.
It officially occurred September 12th of 2022. So what happened was the former RTD had stepped away. I believe she moved. And so the position became available. Quite frankly, it wasn't something that I had personally ever considered. And my ROD reached out to me and said, hey, this position is available and I think you'd be great for it and you should apply. And I actually called my husband almost immediately and said, you're not going to believe what this crazy pants said to me. She thinks I'm good for that. And he's like, absolutely, you should apply. So with all of the encouragement that I had, I applied and did wind up getting the position.
What is life like as a regional technician director, and what are some of the best parts of your role and what makes it a little challenging some days?
Overall, it's been amazing. This has been one of the most fulfilling roles in my career, and I've really loved being able to support my teams and to support more people in a way that I never imagined. I think my favorite part is the people. I'm able to make a larger impact on the future of veterinary medicine by getting into these hospitals and working with them, supporting their needs, providing the training that they need. That part's been really incredible. The challenging part is knowing for myself that I am but one person. I have tons of ideas. I have so many things that I want to do to help support my teams, and I could easily spread myself too thin. The good thing is I do not shy away from a challenge. I love puzzling, so I'm going to come up with a solution. And I think, in the nearly 3 years that I've been in this role, I feel like I've been pretty successful at pivoting and turning and doing what I needed to do to still feel like I was working alongside of my teams to support whatever their need was.
How many hospitals are you responsible for, and what is that geography?
Currently, pretty much all Florida. I do have a little bit of support from Lissa. She's my counterpart in crime. And I also have Patty supporting the specialty hospitals. So I have about 45 hospitals that I support.
Okay.
And that's all the way from Jacksonville to the tip of Miami that I'm supporting. So it is quite a lot of travel and incredibly worth it.
I was going to ask, how much time are you traveling, and is there an average week with being in home office versus traveling to hospitals?
Yeah, so that has definitely looked a lot different over the years. Once upon a time, I was, getting in and out of my hospitals 5 days a week. And as things have changed and grown, needs have evolved, and we've kind of seen what the hospitals actually need from us. My goal is to be in my hospitals about 3 to 4 days a week now, where I can kind of work on what they need outside of the hospital. And then I usually will rotate through the 4 regions and then take a week to kind of reconvene. Where do we need to go from here?
Were there any surprises to the role that you weren't expecting?
Honestly, I think the first surprise was the role itself, to be honest, because time and again, I've underestimated what veterinary medicine can offer me in terms of fulfillment. So the fact that a role like this even existed was a huge surprise, and I'm grateful. Other than that, I would say the amount of support that I received from people outside of my region. Naturally, I expected that, the people that I was working directly with would be a huge support. What I was flabbergasted by was the amount of support that I received from people outside of my own region, people clear across the entire United States. And I actually still communicate with a lot of them fairly regularly. And it's been tremendous to have that level of support.
Oh, I love that networking so much. In your position, you're a member of the field leadership team, which consists of the group vice president and regional operations directors, regional medical director, regional technician director. How do you work with your team to advance world-class medicine in our hospitals? Do you have a strategy for that?
I think it's one that we fell into sort of by accident. Myself and Dr. Wilson, our regional medical director, we were kind of brought into the team around the same time. And at that moment, Hands-Free Initiative was the big thing that we were rolling out into our hospitals. what we ended up doing was the group of us, the Rod, myself, and Dr. Wilson would go into our hospitals and explain it all to them. And we were able to present it from the perspective of the operations side, the medical side. And I would then introduce the functionality. How are we actually going to accomplish this? And I think we realized when we go in together, we can tag team it and really help this team understand it from all aspects. So, making sure that we're aligning on our goals and our values was really helpful in anything that we try to do with our teams.
What do you want our clients to know about the roles of credentialed veterinary technicians and veterinary assistants in our hospitals?
They are so essential to the pet's care. So it's really important to respect the expertise, specifically the veterinary technicians. These guys are highly trained, they're skilled, they're educated. They went to school to provide the best possible care for the patient and to be able to provide quality education to the client as well. And they're going to be the ones, technicians and assistants, that the client interacts with the most. Whether it be in the hospital, phone calls, they're the ones who are going to be answering the majority of the questions that the clients have. These guys are tremendous patient advocates. They notice subtle things, behavior, health, things that have changed over time, and they bring those things to the attention of the client and to the veterinarian so that we can work together on what that pet's needs are and how can we solve that.
We're going to change directions just a little bit because I know you have a big soft spot for feline practice, given your history. What surprised you about joining a feline practice compared to a general small animal practice?
I was so surprised at how quickly I fell in love with it. I have to say it was a career highlight for me. Mm-hmm. It was something that I'll certainly never forget. And I think it speaks to how I continue to practice and how I continue to interact with my teams now. I enjoyed working with cats even in my former practices that were both cat and dog, but it is a completely different experience when you're just with one species. But I found it to be pretty empowering to be able to focus on that and really learn more about the disease processes, preventative care, be able to share that knowledge with clients and with others in our field.
I think that there's more behavior medicine probably with cats than dogs, and certainly more feline behavior associated with receiving veterinary care. That's what I think our feline-only practices really are able to tailor what they do to what cats want and what cats like.
Absolutely.
Why is regular veterinary care for cats even more important than it is for dogs?
So cats, they are masters of disguise.
Mm-hmm.
Pain, illness, they want to hide it from us. So by the time symptoms become pretty obvious, the condition is pretty advanced. They also tend to receive less veterinary attention than dogs do because of things like stress of travel. Also, there's a misconception, I think, that especially indoor cats receive, that because they're indoor, it puts them into a much lower risk category because there's lower exposure. But the sad fact is that, the most common diseases that our kitties succumb to are things like dental, renal disease, diabetes, hyperthyroidism, and those things have very little to do with whether they're inside or outside.
Mm-hmm.
In many cases, those types of things can be prevented or managed better so long as they receive veterinary care and we can detect them early.
I know that a lot of cat owners have a hard time getting their cats in for care. What are some of the ways to make it easier for cats and owners, and what's the veterinary team's role in that?
I love this question because I think that if more owners understood that we can make this a lot gentler for the patient and it makes it easier for everyone involved, including the owner, the patient, and even the veterinary team, it can certainly increase the capability for us to see these guys and to help them when needed. But some of the best advice I can give is to make that carrier a safe space.
Mm-hmm.
Leaving it out instead of, putting it in the garage like most of us tend to do because we want to put it away. But leaving it out at home, keeping it open and letting them go in and out at will, offering treats inside of the carrier, making that an enjoyable place for them can be helpful. Towels and calming pheromones placed over the carrier during travel can certainly help to reduce some of that overwhelming stimuli that cats will get from suddenly being uprooted from their home and placed into a car.
Mm-hmm.
If we can avoid loud music, bumpy roads, sudden stops, things like that could potentially add to stress for the kitty, that can all be certainly helpful. It's okay to request medication that can reduce stress prior to the visit.
That's a great point.
The kitty's experience in the practice, whether that is good or bad, can ultimately leave a lasting impression on them that dictates how future visits are going to go. So medications for anxiety and stress can help to create that calm visit for everyone.
So, Dyanna, are there any online resources that cat owners can visit to learn more that have great quality information?
Yeah, I love referring my clients to catfriendly.com. It is a website that allows them to explore different ways that they can provide a more comfortable experience for their pet when traveling.
That's great. Well, we'll put that in the show notes. And I think that that's a part of the Feline Veterinary Medical Association organization. Is that right?
Yes, it is.
Cat owners that are getting cats, say a kitten or young adult, how important is that early training with, both with carriers and transport, but also with eating different kinds of foods and treats?
All of that is super important. It helps with desensitization. We don't take them out of the home. They stay in the home. So things that we can do to help them understand that those are not bad experiences can all be helpful. And the younger that we start, the easier that process is. It's not impossible when they're older, but it is a little bit more challenging, but it's so, so important.
Cats actually love outdoor time, and yet we need to make sure they stay safe with it. What if somebody has gotten a kitten and wants to try leash walking? Any advice about that?
Yeah, I've done it twice. I did it in kittens, and I start by, putting the harness on. You want to get a nice harness, not necessarily a leash. I think it's unfortunately too easy for kitties to escape from a leash and collar situation where a harness makes it more sturdy.
Right.
And just leave that harness on for a few seconds. It's really about starting to put it on and pretty much taking it right off. We're just getting them used to that process. Then you can move slowly into putting it on and offering treats. We want to encourage them every time they do something and accept something that we've asked them to do. Cats always prefer it to be on their terms, so be mindful of that. We're building up to that process. Once we put the harness on and then allow them to take a couple of steps and we reward them for that. And then we're attaching the leash. So there is a build up to it. You don't just put it on and expect them to want to walk and take them outside and all of that stuff. We have to really start slow and work up to it.
Yeah, my niece sent me a picture of, she was walking her cats she had a cat stroller. So they were all zipped up in the stroller, but they have outdoor time. Any thoughts on that?
Oh, I love that. I think it kind of eliminates the hard part of trying to teach them how to do the leash and that sort of thing, but it still gives them that exposure, but in a really safe way. That way, they can see everything, but they're not walking around in the grass. They're not, unfortunately, getting lost. If they get a little scared, they're still in a contained environment, but they can still walk and move around and all of those fun things.
I love that she sent me that picture. It's great to give them other environmental exposure and things that prevent boredom too.
Absolutely.
Pets get bored just like people get bored.
They do. And enrichment for them is so, so important.
Now, what about the in-hospital experience? Because I know that a lot of cats are fearful of the hospitals. What kind of training is available for hospital associates who may not work with cats as often as dogs?
Yeah, so we have a lot of really great resources. So the first one that I always turn to for team members is the Wolf U courses. So there are safe, low stress handling techniques. There's actually one for feral kitties and how to take care of them. We also have a discounted program available to us as VCA associates through the Feline VMA that provides cat-specific behavioral training. And so understanding the behaviors of felines is super, super important to being able to even handle them. Vetfolio, which is free to us as well, also offers tons of videos, courses, podcasts, things like that on feline behavior. Ultimately, you can take all the courses that you want, but practice is what makes perfect. So, you start handling the more tolerant patients, spend time really watching, just observe, learn and understand some of those behaviors and try to associate with some of the things that you may have learned from some of those courses. The best advice that I can give in these situations is to always be willing to advocate for yourself and for the patient. It's okay to take a step back and reevaluate the situation. Sometimes we need to create a different game plan, and that's okay. We need to create a safe environment for the patient and for ourselves.
sadly, we're nearing the end of our time together. It has been a joy to speak with you. You entered veterinary medicine young. What advice do you have for those just entering veterinary medicine or thinking about this as a career path?
Stay curious. Always be willing to learn. Be comfortable with uncertainty. That allows you to ask a lot of questions and just know that you are going to make mistakes, but that's okay. That's how we learn and it's how we grow. The best advice that I think I can give is always be willing to embrace change. Change is inevitable. Medicine is always evolving, so there will never be a time when we're not changing and growing. So be okay to embrace that.
Oh, that is an absolutely wonderful message and so true. Dyanna, thank you so much for your time today and sharing your wisdom with us. And I really appreciate you. I know you're doing a tremendous job, and thank you for joining.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. We hope you enjoyed it and learned a few helpful tips. If you haven't already, I encourage you to subscribe and listen to our previous episodes to hear the many valuable insights and lessons from our past guests. Don't forget to leave a review for today's episode and share with friends. Make sure to follow VCA Animal Hospitals on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram to stay in the loop. For more inspiring stories, visit our website at vcavoice.com.